Hello, I'm Santo D. Marabella. Today, I want to share with you that the Reading Film Office is partnering with GoggleWorks Center for the Arts Boscov Theater and the Jewish Federation of Reading Berks to present a very special screening of the film They Survived Together on April 21st, beginning at 6 p.m. with a filmmaker meet and greet, followed by the film at 7 p.m. We were fortunate to have the filmmaker John Rokosny with us today. John, welcome, and thank you for telling this powerful story of courage and survival during the Holocaust.
Oh, thank you, Santa. Thank you for having us. It's great. I'm really excited about screening this film and talking to you today.
It's our pleasure. You know, with so many films that have already recount this most horrific time of dehumanizing depravity in history, why choose to tell this story? What's different?
Um, I met this family. My partner, Andrea Redmond, who's my producing partner, and I met Hanka, one of the siblings of the family, in our local cafe in the East Village, Lower East Side. And we heard her story. She wrote a children's book for her granddaughter's bat mitzvah, and to tell the family story in a gentle way. It's called The Red Hat, and the film is based on this book, really. And once we heard this story, our jaws dropped. We were so moved by it because we were actually with her while we read the book. She told us her whole story, and it just rang like a bell. Like, I just halfway through the book, I said, I know what I'm going to be doing for the next few years of my life. It was one of those moments of clarity, where I was like, I've got to do this. This is it. This has been handed to me, and it's my mission to do this and to tell the story. So it was a gift.
It certainly is, and it's a gift to your audiences as well, and I'm sure to the is it Niger or Niger family? Niger family.
Yeah.
Yeah. The in the process of making the film, I know you've had to have heard countless stories from the siblings recounting these atrocities by the Nazis that they either observed or experienced themselves. So I guess what I would ask and wonder is, how did hearing their story impact you as a filmmaker, but actually more importantly, how did it impact you as a person?
We hear these stories and we see films, but when you're in the room with a person who has experienced this and they're telling you this, it makes it so real. And we were very lucky to be able to get firsthand account witnesses of the atrocities of the Holocaust. These people are getting very old, they're dying, their memories are going. We were very lucky to capture this. I won't give away the ending, but yeah, it just it just makes it all more real, that when you actually sit down in a room alone with a person and hear their story, it shook me.
Yeah, I would agree, having screened it myself. I kind of recall, so I guess Steven Spielberg talked about this when he established the National Archive in the Holocaust Museum, that these stories have to be told because then there is documented evidence that in fact they happened and they were not made up, or they cannot be denied.
Right. That's what's so important, that this, and I feel so grateful to be able to have done this film, to have completed it. So this story will not die, as generations go, the story, I screened this film for the whole family, including the next generation down and the next generation down. And they were all surprised that they were like, I never heard that story. They were all, and even some of the siblings themselves were like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, because they didn't really talk about it that much as a family. But when they were given this opportunity to make this film, it all came out. And So that to be able to pass this down to the family at the very least was very important. Um,
Abs-
but it's touched a
Absolutely.
lot of people. We've gotten great reactions from people, and that was very important for us, that the story came out in a real way that you could follow it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you from my perspective, it's so compelling. I think for the dichotomy it presents of characters, on the one hand, the lack of character of the Hitler's regime, and then on the other hand, the strength of characters of families like the Nigers. Um, we hope you'll join us on April 21st. And for more information, please click on the link below that describes how to get tickets. John, let's take a moment to share the trailer.
Okay.
When I was a little girl, my family lived in a tight Jewish community in the city of Krakow. My parents were not well-to-do, but they were managing all right.
The war started, that's changed everything.
Hitler began his assault of Europe, beginning with the invasion of Poland. They were making families dig their graves. The family got into the hole, and then the Germans would throw grenades in.
They were throwing children out the window. Infants, throwing them out the window. My father said that we're going to die, but I'm not going to wait for us all to be killed and shot. I'm going to try to get out.
Immediately, they made arrangements for our escape so that we might survive together, or not at all. There was no question of what was going on. It was there. It was there.
In Czechoslovakia, there were no Germans. So for us to cross the border meant freedom.
In the darkness of night, with the clothes on our back, our family escaped from the ghetto. Nobody expected to survive. That wasn't even the motivation behind making the decision to get out of the ghetto. It really was a question of how they were choosing to die rather than survive. If they were going to die, they were going to die together.
We're talking with John Rokosny, the filmmaker who created They Survived Together, and that was the trailer from that film. I don't want to ask you to reveal the ending because I know it's really powerful. But what struck me about the fortitude and courage of this family, I mean, it's amazing. So as you got to know the siblings in the process of producing this film, what's different about this family? I mean, so many other families had the same types of horrendous situations, but what do you think was different about them?
Well, what's unique about this family is, for one thing, and I've talked to a lot of Holocaust scholars and educators, and this is the only story that anybody's ever heard where a family of parents and small children escaped and survived intact. Nobody's ever heard of another story like this. And the Jewish Museum said they've heard thousands of survivor stories, and they've never heard a story like this because children were killed first, and the parents were just incredibly resilient. I think the combination of the parents, the mother was extremely tough, extremely practical. She ran a business. The father was a chess player, and he was a professional soccer goalie. He knew how to manipulate with chess. He knew how to save with goals. The two of them together just created this incredible team. And each of the children were at different ages, and I think they all kind of protected each other. And then that just carried on into their adulthood. they, they were just, it was remarkable to see the closeness of them. And of course, they had their moments of, family disputes or whatever. But we'd go out to a lunch with one of them, and all of them would show up, and it was just like, and that happened so many times. We'd have so many meals with them, and they would all be there, and it was like, they're in their 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. It were like, most people get together with their siblings like once a year, twice a year on the holidays, but these guys hung out all the time. They all lived on the east side of Manhattan, and it was just remarkable. It's just unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most striking lines for me in watching was, I believe it was Bastias talking about how the loss is you are homeless and you can never find it again.
Yeah, that's a great point that you picked out there. Something you don't think about. You're in their apartments in this, in the New York City apartment. They're living their lives, but they came. They were, just like what's going on in Ukraine. They had to leave, not by their own choice. They would be still in Krakow like their family was for hundreds of years, but they were kicked out. They were forced out of their homes, physically forced out of their homes, and they were fortunate enough to be able to escape and survive, which so many didn't. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really think of it as being homeless until she said that, and I thought, well, yeah, she's here not by her choice. She's in a new place. She's learning a new language, new customs, new ways, everything. They had to just leave their home.
Yeah, and try to recreate some semblance of life again. I'm glad you referenced what's going on in Ukraine, because I think this film is even more gripping with that background as the backdrop of what the genocide of women and children by the Russians in Ukraine. I'll always remember this Santayana quote. I remember I saw it on the walls of Dachau in Germany. It said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." So, John, does it surprise you that we're seeing the past repeated in almost similar ways 80 years later?
I mean, it's shocking. It's truly shocking. And you're right. When the Ukraine thing started and it was on the news, and then I watched my film again for the first time since that started, I saw it in a new way. I actually felt like I got a punch in the stomach. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is what's happening. It's shocking. It's disturbing. And yet I'm not surprised, because there's been a rise of nationalism all across the world. And, being proud of your country is one thing, but, genocide is another,
Absolutely. I'm curious, filmmakers, no matter how disciplined, have aspirations about what they hope their audiences are going to get from the stories they tell. What do you hope your audience takes from They Survive Together?
Well, strictly technically speaking, first as a filmmaker, I wanted that, and our editor, Patty Schumann, who did an incredible job, and Andriette, my co-producer, what we wanted was that the story made sense, that you followed the whole thing, because it's a complicated story, and we had to really make sure that every step of the way you knew where they were going, what they were doing. Aside from that I wanted this to be, this is one family's story, but to me it represents the Jewish people. The Nazis didn't win. The Jewish people survived. A lot of them didn't, but as a people, they survived, and they went on to do incredible things. And the Niger family to me represents that. And it's making me emotional just thinking about it, because, you know, how anybody can treat people like this is beyond our comprehension, and yet it goes on.
It does. I think your audiences will definitely see that. I got that. I see it as a bigger than itself, as a symbol of, as you described, of the endurance and of the Jewish people.
Yeah,
It's cinematically beautiful, and it's emotionally heartbreaking at the same time.
thank you.
It's a film that everyone in our community needs to see, especially now. So we hope you'll join us on April 21st. Again, there's information at the bottom, or click wherever social media you're on. John, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you, Santo. I really appreciate the time, and I really look forward to seeing you at the screening and everybody. And
Thanks.
I appreciate it.